Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone had a nice day. This is going to be part 7 of my underrated horror film series. What prompted me to do this video today is I was watching a movie the other night that came on to Encore. I was watching cable and this movie came on, and I haven't watched this movie in a while, even though I have it in my collection. And I just remember how much I loved this film as a kid. It was a film that came out in 1995 when I was 21 years old, and it was directed by a horror legend starring one of my favorite actors of all time. The movie I'm referring to is Wes Craven's Vampire in Brooklyn, starring Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett. Now, this is a very polarizing film. There's a lot of people that really hate this film. I've always been in the minority about this film. I've always loved it. I always had a good time with it. I thought it mixed the comedy and the horror very well. And I think it was one of the last edgy films that Eddie Murphy ever did. So what I'm going to do now is give a little bit of background on the film with regards to plot, the actors that are in the film, some trivia behind the movie that I wasn't aware of until I did some research for this video. And I hope everyone enjoys this, and I hope everyone looks forward to it. Please stay tuned. Vampire in Brooklyn would be released on October 27th of 1995. It was directed by Wes Craven. It stars Eddie Murphy as Maximilian, Angela Bassett as Detective Rita Vedder, Alan Payne as Detective Justice, Kadeem Hardison as Julius Jones, John Witherspoon as Silas Green, Zakes Mokai as Dr. Zako, Joanna Cassidy as Captain Dewey, and Simbi Kali as Nikki, Rita's roommate. The story was written by Eddie Murphy and his brother Vernon Lynch and Charles Murphy. The screenplay was actually written by Charles Murphy, Michael Lucker, and Chris Parker. The plot of Vampire in Brooklyn focuses on the character of Maximilian, as played by Eddie Murphy, who is the only survivor from a race of vampires on a Caribbean island, and as a vampire he must find a maid to keep the line from ending. Maximilian knows that a child had been born to a woman who had a vampire father, and he searches for her in Brooklyn. Rita, played by Angela Bassett, her mother, who has died in an asylum, was that woman. Rita has nightmares that she does not understand. Not knowing that she is part vampire, Max woos her and attempts to bring her to her destiny. So upon doing research for this video, I checked IMDb just to find out some trivia and stuff like that. And there were some things that I actually didn't know about, just what went on behind the scenes for this film. I guess in 2007, on The Directors, Wes Craven suggested that Eddie Murphy ignored his request to play the character Vulnerable, the Maximilian character, and felt compelled to showcase his comedic talents. The other thing was that in November of 2011 interview with Rolling Stone, Eddie Murphy stated that he made this movie for one reason. Paramount agreed to release the Nutty Professor's rights in exchange for finishing the deal with the studio. So Murphy also said that the wig his character wore was so awful it immediately made people despise the film. So this was Eddie Murphy's last movie with Paramount. So a lot of people that don't know, all of the Eddie Murphy movies that came out between the mid 80s to the mid 90s were all done through Paramount, with the exception of Distinguished Gentlemen, and they were all done by Eddie Murphy Productions. So Vampire in Brooklyn was the last Eddie Murphy production out of Paramount, and after this he would go on to do The Nutty Professor for Universal. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, I saw this movie in the theater when it opened. Opening night, October 27th, 1995. I took a date, Gail Lucero. Hey, Gail, if you're watching. Took her to see this film. I remember I just got in my truck, which I still have and I still drive around, but it was brand new. And it was one of the first dates I ever went on in the new car. So I was so happy and proud of my truck, and we went to see this film. I had a big crush on Gail, and I was just really happy to take her out to see something really funny, and I was a huge Eddie Murphy fan. As a kid, it was Eddie Murphy and Chevy Chase and John Candy and Richard Pryor. Those were they were gods to me in terms of comedy. And I was a huge fan of Eddie, and I thought it was so cool he was going to be doing a horror film, because he was primarily known for comedies. and had never done anything like this before, where he played a villain. I thought that was cool, and the way he looked in the film was different. I mean, the wig and everything, he looked very different in this film, but I liked the character of Maximilian. I thought Eddie Murphy did a good job in it. I liked his accent. I thought everything about it was cool. I thought Angela Bassett did a great job as Rita. I was always a fan of her, going back to Boys in the Hood, and then she did What's Love Got to Do with It, and just was a huge fan of Angela, and I just thought that her and Eddie Murphy's chemistry was excellent in this film. I don't care what people say about it, but I thought they worked really well off each other. I also thought that there was a good balance in this film with the comedy and the horror. It's hard to pull off, and I think it was done well here. And with Kadeem Hardison, who I was a fan of from Different World as Dwayne Wayne, I just loved him in this as Julius because he's Maximilian's ghoul, which is really funny, and things that start happening to him really make you laugh. And of course, John Witherspoon, just, of course, is, from the Friday movies and Boomerang, just, I've always been a fan of him, and he can really make me laugh. But I think there's some really scary moments in this film, and I don't think this film gets enough appreciation. Of course, once a film doesn't do well, this film broke even, but it wasn't a hit. It wasn't a huge hit at all. But when I saw it, when I took Gail to see this movie, I remember everybody was dying laughing, especially a couple scenes where Maximilian turns into two of his victims that he kills are characters that Eddie Murphy plays in makeup. And this is the first time since Coming to America that Eddie Murphy started experimenting with the makeup again, the makeup effects, where he was changing into other characters. So he changes into a character called Preacher Polly. And he also played a character called Guido, which was he did it with white he was supposed to be a white Italian man, and that scene alone is I think one of the funniest scenes that Eddie Murphy's ever done. He has such terrific comedic timing, but he also plays Maximilian. He's scary, and there's times that Maximilian's a little funny, but I felt, I don't care what Wes Craven said, I felt Maximilian wasn't really that over the top in the film. That's just my opinion. I felt like Eddie Murphy kind of played him straight. The only times he kind of toes the line is when he's dealing with the Julius character played by Kadeem Hardison. But Kadeem Hardison is really the comic relief when Maximilian and him are on screen, because Maximilian is more straight. And I felt like the comedy side that Eddie brought to the movie was more in the Preacher Polly and the Guido sequences, where he's just hamming it up, and it's just, those scenes are funny. I love the Preacher Polly scene because he's a preacher, and they take him into the church, and his hair catches on fire because he's a vampire. I think that scene is hilarious. And the Guido scene, like I said, is just awesome. But Kadeem Hardison is awesome in this as well with the comedy, and I really like this film a lot. And I also, like I said, I think if you didn't have a great director like Wes Craven, I don't think the comedy and the horror would have been balanced so well. But there's some really creepy scenes. There's one scene where, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a scene where this woman's being attacked, and the way that it's cut together is really pretty eerie. For a movie where, Eddie Murphy's the star of it, because he wasn't known to do horror films at all, but in this film, it's a really creepy scene, and it's really done well, where you don't see everything. You just see sort of really quick images of it, and they cut together with the Rita character painting, and I thought that was really a nice blend of back and forth, and just, I thought that scene was really well done. And Maximilian is really a tragic character, and even though he's the main villain in this, there is a scene in the movie where I've always loved it. I don't care what people say about it, and people might think I'm crazy for liking this film, but it was, for me, it really was one of the last edgy Eddie Murphy movies. After this, he did Nutty Professor, which I loved. I loved the first Nutty Professor a lot. But after that, he was kind of stuck in, because this movie didn't do that well, and then Nutty Professor made over $100 million. So, of course, those are the movies he's going to do, because those are the most profitable ones. This just really showed his comedic talents, that he could play somebody a little bit more serious than he had been known for in his past work, and I think he just did a tremendous job in this. I think Wes Craven did a tremendous job directing this film. I really don't understand the hate for this film, and like I said, when I saw it with an audience, people were laughing their asses off. So, like I said, it's maybe some people haven't seen this. I really think people need to check it out. It's a really fun film. Like I said, there's some really creepy images in it, but there's also a lot of really fun comedy in this. So if you like comedy horror films, I definitely recommend Vampire in Brooklyn. Check it out. If you guys have seen it, please just comment below. Tell me what you think about it. Are you in the minority with me and actually really enjoy the film and love it? I'd love to hear what people think about this film. And that's about it. So just wanted to share some thoughts on Vampire in Brooklyn. I hope everyone's doing well. I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and please stay tuned for some more stuff coming from me later this week. Alright, hope everyone has a great evening. Take it easy.